It is a sad, sad day for Android users because Google is getting rid of the iconic, no pun intended, blob emojis and are replacing them with what you can only describe as abominations. And the update comes with the new Android O developer preview, and they haven't made any of these official, but they will once this new version is released to the public later this year. And maybe not everyone thinks this is a big deal, I don't care about emojis, but you know what? This just ain't right. Now obviously, I need to show you what I'm talking about for you to understand. Let's get into it. We can start off with an example of what I think is one of the worst changes in the entire new catalog, the turtle. This little guy is what we have now. I mean, just look at him. Just look at how happy he is. Who would want to hurt this guy? But no, Google decided that they don't want a cute little smiling turtle, so they're killing him and turning him into this. What is that? You go from a happy, smiling, goofy turtle to this ugly, arrogant, half-asleep, double-chinned, grotesque-shelled, discolored-faced, big-toe-headed atrocity. Now, we haven't even gotten to the smiley emojis yet, but just looking at the rest of the animals they've changed, a lot of them are just as bad as the turtle. It's like they wanted them to look more realistic for some reason. And I mean, look at the tiger. It went from being an actually expressive, funny emoji to some dead-faced, expressionless animal that doesn't even look like a tiger anyway. Next thing you know, they'll be changing all the emojis to photographs of the subject in question. It only makes sense, right? I mean, they clearly want to fit as much detail into a 48 by 48 pixel for some reason, so why not just take a picture and be done with it? Oh wait, maybe it's because you want an emoji to actually be something you can use as an expression in a text message and not in a university taxonomy course. Of course, we have to talk about the faces, and don't worry, they're just as bad. Here's what we have now. You know, the cute little blobs, maybe they're strangely shaped, but they're simple, not overdone, and easy to understand. And like I said before, when it comes to emojis, I think simpler is better because they're gonna be shown so small so you can know what's actually going on in the picture. So before we show you the new junk, for comparison, here's a blast from the past. These are some emojis from the ancient MSN Messenger circa 2005. I mean, remember when we had these ugly things? But actually wait, because I lied. These aren't the emojis from 2005. These are in fact the new Android emojis. Yeah, I wonder how many of you could tell. I mean, really, what are these? They look like those pop-up ads from 15 years ago with the thousands of free emoticons to download. What's up with the thick border and the weird gradient on all of them? It makes the faces look like they all have 5 o'clock shadow or something. And why is this one blue now? It doesn't even make sense. It makes it look sick. It's like whoever designed these had no idea what they were doing, looked up some 15-year-old design tutorial video on YouTube, and then made all of these emojis using the same exact steps for each one without learning any new techniques. I mean, gradients? Really? Now, let me be clear for a minute. I know why they wanted to redesign the emojis in general. It's not like this is the first time they've changed them, and it won't be the last. The main reason in this case was to create consistency of the Android emojis among the rest of the other platforms like iOS and Samsung and all those. Okay, fair enough. There were some Android emojis that looked different than, say, iOS, but there weren't really that many. For example, here's an old grimacing smiley face on Android, and here it is on iOS. Wait a minute, that looks the same. Then what does the new one look like? I thought we were going for consistency here. Okay, let's try another one. Here, look at this old Android dizzy face emoji. As you can see, it's totally different from Apple's, which has X eyes. But now they've fixed it because here's the new one. I'm kind of getting mixed messages here. And some of you might be saying, you're just cherry picking. There are plenty of emojis that didn't look like other platforms. And well, sure, that was definitely the case a few years ago. I mean, look at this angry face from Android, which totally didn't match up with the iOS version, but that was way back in Android 4, and since then it's the same. Then there was this surprise face, which for some reason Android had as a mouth zip shut face, but again, that was only with Android 4 and was fixed since. Really, the only example I found in the new one that fixes a reasonably major difference is the scared face, where on Apple it looks like some sort of ghost with no eyes or something, and on Android it actually looked like a person screaming. And they did change that to more closely resemble the iOS version. But you know what? In this case, I think the iOS version looks stupid. It doesn't even look like a face of a person. I mean, at least the Android version has some personality, so they should have just kept that one anyway. So I'm not buying this whole "we did it for consistency" excuse, because it's obvious they didn't need to change as much as they did. If they wanted to get rid of the blob shape, just change them to a circle, keeping the rest. Problem solved. In fact, a couple, that's exactly what they did, like the kissing face. Why didn't they do that for all of them? As for the hideous gradient and outlines, their explanation is that they wanted emojis to be more easily visible in this case, and in a blog post describing the design process, they argue that the outline and gradients make the emojis more legible across all backgrounds, no matter what background color. But I mean, come on, does anyone really have any issue with legibility before this, or is this a solution looking for a problem? The only way the old ones would have been tough to see is if you had them on like a pure yellow background or something, and even still you'd be able to see the emojis' faces without even seeing the background. And can you even recall a single time you've used an app that uses a pure yellow background when typing in text? Didn't think so. For the 1 in a billion times it helps, this just makes them look stupid the rest of the time. At this point you might be wondering and thinking, geez, these emojis do look like crap. Hopefully they didn't spend too much time on these and they'll be willing to change them back. Well, it turns out that they spent a full 1.5 years working on these horrendous things. So I think with this much time invested, or I mean wasted, they wouldn't change their mind even if Steve Jobs himself came back and told them he liked the old versions so much that Apple would start using them exclusively. But it also makes you wonder, how the heck could they have possibly spent that much time on these and ended up with such an ugly result? Did they not do focus groups or opinion testing or anything? Or perhaps it's a case of these people needing to justify their jobs in order to keep getting paid. Maybe they thought, well, if all we do is change the background shape from a gumdrop to a circle, the bosses are gonna start to wonder why they're paying us 6 figures a year. It wouldn't surprise me either. If you look at the blog post about the new emojis, they have all sorts of fancy diagrams and grids showing how circular the circles are, and wow, look at the plane we've carefully placed at this 45-degree angle. That one was tricky. And just look at this interesting image showing the different colors they used in these various emojis. Isn't it cool that with the dolphin we used 3 whole colors? Blue, slightly darker blue, and even darker blue? I hope the boss doesn't find out that I just randomly clicked around on the color palette until it looked good. And don't forget about those tonal strokes, guys. They're not outlines, they're tonal strokes. Get it right, would you? Look, Google, I know you're proud of your work, but I think you're taking the design of these emojis a little bit too seriously. There is literally no reason to add this much detail to a tiny little drawing of a rabbit, for example. In fact, the new one doesn't even look like a rabbit, more like an albino chipmunk or something. I mean, why are the ears so short? And do I need to remind you of this poor little fella again? Though looking at the blog post again, I think the funniest thing about it is the last section where they talk about how they're introducing 69 new emojis. Really? That's the number you're gonna go with? 69, that's not a joke. You spent 1.5 years on all these and you couldn't make one more? Couldn't make it to 70? Okay, you know what? I'll help them out. I'm gonna make my very own emoji using their own components, and then they can use it as their 70th. Let's do one that represents my reaction to these new emojis. Yep, that seems about right. Took about a whole minute to make that one. Oh wait, I forgot. That's not enough anymore. Needs more gradient and tonal strokes. Ah, there we go. That was definitely necessary. Well, that didn't take long either, but I mean, we're getting paid by the hour, so may as well spruce it up a bit, right? Ha, now that's more like it. Perfect. So yeah, I think I've made it pretty clear why I think all these emojis just look stupid. The current versions look totally fine, and their simplicity is a good thing. They don't need to be exactly the same as all the other platforms as long as the fundamental facial expression is the same, which they are. Sure, there are a couple that could be tweaked, but that doesn't justify a completely new redesign, especially one that looks like it belongs in an AOL Instant Messenger emoticon pack. And as we saw, there were some that probably did need to be changed, and they didn't do it anyway. Of course, when it comes to Google, they are obviously not going to change their mind about this because they never listen to customers. And for me, I don't even really use emojis that often at all, except as a joke. And even I can tell how dumb these are. I don't know how this got past quality control. I mean, at least with some text messaging apps, they do let you pick your own emoji set to use. You might have to start doing that from now on. But in any case, that's about all I have to say. But I want to know what you guys think about all this. Let me know down in the comments whether you agree with me or you think I'm completely wrong, you love the new ones. And be sure to check out everyone else's comments too to find out if you're in the minority opinion or not. We'll see. Anyway, if you want to keep watching, I'll put some other videos right here. You can just click on those. And if you want to subscribe, I make new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Again, I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.